Jeremy Perez is an artist and filmmaker working in Houston, Texas. With a passion for visual storytelling, he has honed his craft in two distinct but equally captivating mediums: film photography and motion pictures. In addition to his artistic endeavors, Jeremy works as the education coordinator and darkroom manager at Flats, developing film, creating and teaching classes on many topics across photography, and helping run a community critique event.
Hey, welcome back to the Houston Camera Exchange Photographic Therapy. We're back here on our podcast, and we have actually a special guest here with us. Someone that I consider very important to our community, especially if you're out there in the actual, analog world. Last episode, we got to have Eunice Gonzalez, and I want to introduce to you guys the second half of that power team over there at Flats. But today we have with us Jeremy. How you doing, Jeremy?
Good.
Doing okay?
Yes, sir.
And I see you rocking that Houston Astros hat.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Still faithful.
Yes, sir. And through the good and the bad, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's always one of the things. Obviously, we're going to talk about photography, but since we're on top of a baseball is kind of my first love.
Yeah.
And I remember I had seen you maybe a year or 2 years ago. I can't remember when we clinched the pennant. Or
that was the victory parade. Yeah. Right after we won. Yeah.
You were out there where you were only just snapping away, man.
Yeah.
Did I ever send that photo to you? I don't know if I ever sent it to you. I took a photo.
I'm not sure. I got a good one of you too. I caught you across the street.
Okay. If not, I'll look for it again. But I have that, and that was always really cool to me, man. Like anytime I would always go down. But now that I had a camera, it even became, I don't want to say cooler, but I think more meaningful to be able to capture those moments, man. Yeah. Obviously, too, when we won the World Series, I remember I told Tony, our cinematographer here at Houston Camera Exchange, he was with me that night, and we were watching the game, and I was like, look, we're going to get a head start, and I know where to go, and we're going to go document because we're going to win the World Series tonight. And he was like, are you sure? He was like, yeah, we're going to win it, bro. Trust me. He goes, you got a camera with you? He was like, yeah, I actually do have a camera with me. And I think he had his Mamiya 645, and we went out there, bro. We clinched it, and it was so cool. We're out there documenting, and we got to meet Paul Wall. But I think for a moment, and it's cool. This is why we do this photographic therapy.
Yeah.
I saw Tony kind of put his camera down, and he kind of was just soaking up that moment, and that was really cool of him doing that, man. And I think I'm pretty sure you've had many moments like that.
Yeah.
And I think documenting the Astros winning the World Series, that was a really cool time.
Yeah, it was really insane vibe. Like, it's like when you do street photography or something like that, you're trying to harness that energy. Yeah. And it was just insanely natural. Like, everywhere you go, it's if you just take a picture of any direction, you're gonna it's gonna show in the photo. So it was a really strange, rare moment to be in, as a photographer. And I was not expecting to go downtown. I was gonna hit the bar because I've done where I was I think when we played the Nationals, I was I'm gonna go out and we're gonna win, we're gonna party. Then we lost, and it was oh, now you're at this bar for now you gotta drive home and stuff, all pissed off. So I wasn't planning on planning ahead,
Yeah.
But then we won it, and then we were we're only 10 minutes walk from downtown, so I had my cameras because I started getting smaller and smaller cameras so I could just take them every day. So I had two cameras with me, and I was let's go walk. And
let's roll with it. I saw you out there, man. You were out in the action. It was pretty cool to see that.
Yeah, it was a lot.
You ever
fun.
think about putting that body of work together or
No. It's funny because there's Uncle Bob's Zine Fest is coming up, the zine market, and I was I want to make something, and I was looking back at because I've shot film for a solid 3 years now, just exclusively. And I was oh, let me see what I have. And I'm trying to think of something to put together, make a formal body of work. That's a good idea too. I should look back at those pictures.
Yeah, it's cool. I know we're starting off on this topic, but to me, I love baseball, and it was just cool to document that time, man. And I got this really cool special photo of Paul Wall. It was cool to see him out there in the middle of the crowd. Obviously he's a famous person here in Houston, but he's always been about the people. That's why they call him the people's champ.
Yeah.
But I think just being able to document some of those photos, some of the photos of my family, my brother going crazy. I think when we swept the Yankees, That was a cool series too. But
Yeah.
yeah, we're loyal Astros fans around here.
Yes, sir.
But man, if you want to introduce yourself, who you are a little bit, and and we'll go on from
Yeah.
there.
My name's Jeremy Perez. I'm a photographer, filmmaker out here in Houston, and I work at Flats Film Lab, developing all the film. If you've dropped off there, I've done your roles. But I also do the darkroom management, where I run a community darkroom, and we do like little lessons on everything. And I also do education coordination, where I come up with classes for the lab, where you can come in and learn like all these different topics and like things that you like would normally have to go to college to learn.
Man, that's really cool that you guys offer there. I think there's, obviously we've had Jesse, the founder of Flats, and Eunice Gonzalez as well too. We had her last week, but I was really, wanting to get all of y'all on our podcast, whether if it was me and Bernie trying to host you guys, because I think you guys are very important to our community here, especially the analog community, which is, obviously a big resurgence but we'll get a little bit more into that, what's going on with that. So what have you been shooting on lately? Like what's your go-to camera, or what have you been shooting on lately?
I got a like an Olympus stylus in New York for like I think on one day, like the first day in New York, I was like, man, I left my camera in my apartment that night. So I was like hunting, and I went to this random electronics store, because all the camera shops are insanely overpriced.
Oh man!
But I went to like this like shop that just repairs like turntables and stuff, and they had a little Olympus stylus for like $80, and
That's a
picked
deal.
that up. It's a sick camera. Like the shots I took that first day like are beautiful. We went to the park, and there's like old dudes playing ping pong and stuff, and I was just sitting on the bench like taking shots. And it's a really beautiful camera. I was surprised by the lens and stuff. Like it has a funny like halo effect if you zoom in a little bit, like the light reflects in a funny way. But I don't mind it. I'll shoot on anything, and that's what I've been carrying, is like this cheap Olympus, and then my I use a Rolly 35. It's like another really tiny camera. Both of them compact really small into your pocket. And before that, I was carrying like huge cameras, and I was like so tired of it. Like anytime I'll go out, like get that like neck rash from the big old camera hanging over your neck and stuff. So I was like,
because you shoot a lot of large format too, right?
yeah. I shoot 5x7, which is I always get the weird cameras, because I'll just, when I shop, normally weird cameras are on deals, and I'm like, okay, I can make it work if I compromise this and this.
Right.
So I shot a 5x7, which they only made 5x7 film. Like it was only the main camera for like a few years back in like the early 1900s or something like that. Like it went 4x5, 8x10, all the other bigger sizes, and then 5x7 was like the weird one. So I built up this 5x7, and then I realized like the film's pretty expensive for it and stuff like that. But I still do it as like I'm trying to do a project with it, like but it's like if you go from digital to film, you slow down. If you go from like 35 medium format to like large format, it's way slower. Like it's like you'll get 3 shots in like 30 minutes. Like,
talk about trying to get really intentional.
Yeah,
and,
the price adds up, so you need to be intentional. You can't just take a flick because you feel like it.
I think like maybe trying to get that was I think I picked up I told Eunice, I actually picked up a film camera 3 months after I picked up my digital. And funny story, Heido was with me, where she doing some street photography, and they were like hella overexposed. It was like washed out. I didn't know what I was still doing, at that time. But I'm grateful for it, because it taught me so much, man. It taught me to slow down, be intentional. And now, as I've been in this process, it's kind of allowed me to be a little bit more intentional of different series and projects that I've been doing. I've been doing a lot of that stuff too.
Yeah.
This year I want to get into large format. We'll see.
You should. It'll elevate your game for sure. And then when you pick up the digital camera, you'll be thinking about like little details you probably were looking over, like things you would compromise on before. You'd be like, well, let me look at it, and then it just brings your images up. Like
no disrespect to the medium of digital. We're grateful for it, but also too is it when I was shooting on the A6000, it was my first camera. It was really my first introduction into photography, and I feel like it was doing a lot of the work for me, but it made me a little sloppy in a way. You know what I mean? So slowing down, And also obviously to trying to learn film. I fell in love with it once I started getting those rolls back, and I was like, oh man, that actually turned out good. One of the photos I took of my mother, actually, I was like, all right, I'm really want to learn this,
Yeah.
and I just never looked back after that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Which was really cool. But man, how did you get started into in your journey here? Is this something you went to school for, or what sparked that
Yeah.
journey?
Well, I first like my intro to photography was like probably like 13. I was getting these like skateboard magazines in the mail because I was like,
Word.
everybody wanted to be a skater,
Yeah.
Tony Hawk and all that.
Crazy story about that. I started subscribing to Thrasher again.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, because I love studying '90s photography, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Thrasher has some crazy like and like iconic photography in it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I was getting skateboard magazines and like I would see these spreads and like it would say like photo by blah blah blah, and I was like, oh, you can like do this like photos are not just for taking pictures of your family type of thing, like
Yeah.
so like I got my dad's camera and went to the skate park, and like it was like this funny like church skate park where it was like in the middle, like it would open up the skate park and then like 30 minutes they'd make everybody come in and like do a little sermon, then you go back and skate.
Okay.
So like all those like neighborhood kids would come skate, and then like that, but like I would go shoot and try to like mimic these shots, and like of course they're using like super wide angles and things like that, and I didn't know how they were doing it, but like that's how I got into it like big time, and then like from skating become like moving into music, because like a lot of that's like a like big intersection is music and skating.
It seems like they also go hand in hand too.
Yeah,
you know what
for
I mean?
sure.
I was just listening, man. It's crazy. Some of the obviously most iconic skaters are also iconic photographers. And they're doing all these different podcasts now and talking about the journey. And like I just heard, what's his name? I forget his first name. Vitello, though, obviously the son of the founder of Thrasher. He was on this podcast and he was just saying how they both go hand in hand.
Yeah.
But he also how he misses the analog time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like digital is cool. He was like, there's no way. He's like that Thrasher could have survived maybe if we were all on film. But he goes, it's really cool to see that resurgence back to it as well.
Yeah,
too.
it just has a little bit of personality.
Yeah.
Um,
But that's really cool, man. Like you got started like that. Like, yeah. And with music, did you do some of that as well too?
Yeah, so I mean, I was in bands playing drums and bass and like
that's what's
here
up.
and there, but like photography was like what got me into it mainly. And then like I wanted to be a concert photographer for a while, but I didn't really like the strictness of it. You have to stand in the pit, you have to shoot, and they're gonna stand in the same spot every time. So your photos look really repetitive, and it's hard to like in skateboarding, it's a lot of chaos, and you're trying to capture that chaos. And then in music, a lot of times it's very like poised. So I was like, I didn't really love it that much. I did like maybe one or two festivals photographing, and then I did one on film. It was pretty fun. But then I just didn't like it. So I went to college, and then just like really got into film, like learning how to do it myself and stuff like that. And I tried to stay as near to it as I could. Like I just fell in love with the darkroom, and I mean there's 2 photo classes at Lone Star, and I took photo 2 like 2 more times so I could stay in the darkroom, and then eventually they gave me like the Darkroom Manager job there, so I didn't have to take the class. I can keep doing it.
That's awesome. I think like that's actually what I want to do this year, and that's why I was talking to you. Hey, what do you charge for? Getting to learn from you and stuff like that, or maybe going to a school or something like that. But I think this year, like one of my biggest goals is to invest and to learn some of the darkroom stuff and stuff like that. And that kind of goes to my next question. Well, obviously you work where? Where do you work at?
Flats Film Lab.
Yeah. So it's a local lab here in Houston. I actually found it through my friend Dom's Carter that y'all were doing before pre-COVID. A lot of cool, like I think y'all did an event where y'all were showcasing some photographers' photos from the city and outside of the city. So Dom told me, he was like, hey, there's a film lab that does this really cool small community stuff with exhibitions. He's like, let's go check it out. And we went, and we were just like incredibly inspired. So ever since then, we're like, oh man, we really, gotta try to support as much as we can, because, it's really cool to support the local thing going on here.
Appreciate that.
And I've seen you guys grown as well too. Everybody, of course, everybody wants to send their stuff to the darkroom. The darkroom is an amazing place, and we're thankful for them. But you know, I always tell people, they always ask, hey, where do you get your stuff developed? I was like, well, if you want the darkroom quality, go to Flats, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We really try to like give the big lab feel. Like we did a little tour of a picture house in New York, and they're probably one of the biggest labs in the country, and they do like stuff for like Vogue and stuff like that. And like when we met with them, they were like impressed with our little shop because they're like 40 employees and we're 4 employees.
Yeah, I know.
And we try like our best to like match that quality. Like we went and got out like these really rare scanners, and you know we got the big giant processing machine, which is insane to maintain that thing. But like we like every year we're trying to like up our game visually just to provide like a insane like a professional level of service, you know,
Right.
because there's like it's like we started out in an apartment like Jesse doing hand developing in her apartment,
Yeah.
and then now we're running like 4 employees and like a $10,000 processor, $20,000 scanners, you know, like, and
Yeah.
then we're also trying to let people learn how to use these kind of things, you know.
Yeah, that's what's really awesome about what y'all doing over there. The invitation in the community darkroom, and then y'all guys have set up, you know, different things that you have going on there, and I think that's an incredible, man. You know what you guys are doing there at Flats. But man, if you know, one of the questions that I know, you know, I love to ask, especially if it doesn't matter if you're shooting digital or film, but you know, why do you think you prefer and you gravitate to more shooting film versus digital?
Right now it's ease. Digital, like, I mean, I guess I could go back and get like a 2010s camera for pretty cheap.
Yeah.
And I'll get a pretty good quality image out of it. But, you know, with digital, if you want to get that same image quality as like, you know, get you $100 film camera and then like a $10 roll of film, that's going to have a lot of personality to it. Then you got to have the computer with Photoshop and spend the time looking through your thousands of photos, editing down things.
Right.
Whereas in film, to me, it feels a lot grimier. You know, you shoot your 36 shots, develop it, look through them, you know, scan them, or go in the darkroom, print them, post your favorites, save the other ones for a project later, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it seems like a fast, fluid motion, and it feels like cooking to me, whereas like digital feels like, you know, just like scientific. You know, you learn the technical side and you stick with it.
Yeah, I like what I like about shooting obviously analog is in shooting 35 millimeter and 120. These last 2 years I shot a lot of 120, but I'm getting back to 35 millimeter because I felt like I kind of left it aside a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I would shoot it here and there.
Yeah.
But I was like, man, 35 millimeter has that character, like you said. It's got a lot of personality to it. My favorite part is obviously the one of my favorite parts about it is the process, but also too the tangible part of it.
Yeah.
You know, whether if I get back, it's really cool to get back those negatives, you know, archive them. If I need to, like, you know, for some reason, rescan them, you know, I got a little scanner at home. And obviously too, I haven't got into darkroom printing, but one of the things that I've heard from one of my favorite photographers was, you know, back in the day when you would shoot, the photograph wasn't really complete until you printed it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like their mentality. Like you shoot it, you develop it. They didn't have a form to scan it back there. You actually had to print it, you know?
Yeah, it would sit in your binder. Or it's like, that's like releasing it on Instagram or something, you know? It's like making a print.
And I think that tangible part of photography has kind of been like, it's almost like a foreign concept, right? Because we live in this era of like this, hey, and you know, we take a photo, we like it, we'll post it on IG, on Twitter, on our website or whatever.
Yeah.
And that getting back to that tangible part, I think that's one of the things that I'm actually curious that I want to get into. And you know, I'll team up here with you shortly. But getting into the darkroom, actually making a print versus inkjet, because even though, you know, inkjet, it's cool. I love printing on that. I love printing on luster paper. You know, I didn't know where to kind of print here in the city, so I just ended up investing in a printer, and I started printing for me and some of my friends, and we got invited to different events, like little small showcases, block parties, stuff like that. And to me, I can learn so much from printing my work, that tangible part about it. And that's what I like about shooting film as well too, because it kind of teaches you like, man, that photo didn't come out so good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now I'll go back and retake it and understand. And it's taught me so much, man. Like understanding, you know, exposure, lighting, and different types of environments that I'm shooting on, and understanding being a little bit constrained is actually an okay thing to do because it forces you to really grow. I think, in my personal opinion.
Yeah. I'm excited to get you in the darkroom, man.
Yeah.
Like, there's a like developing film and stuff is like very like it's therapeutic, but it's also like very like organic feeling.
Yeah.
But when you're in the darkroom, it's like you get into like this rhythm. It's like another like you're like in a movie or something. You're in that dark red light. You have your image like, and you're like very much private and stuff. And like it's literally like seeing that white paper like bring your image up to life. And then like the difference between that and inkjet is so precise and leaves nothing to chance, you know.
Oh,
like
yeah.
you'll have like test strips and stuff like that in digital printing because it is a science you have to learn for sure.
Right.
But in the dark room there is that element of chance, and like it's so much fun to like to just leave some things up where you like get these little surprises, and it's just like a cool unique again personality like to
Right.
your image. And of course, like darkroom, you can learn it as a science and like get the same image because that's what they used to do. They used to have professional darkrooms where like magazines would get
Yeah.
prints made and stuff.
Bernie and Mr. Grady and of course one of the other guys, Mr. Billy. He's one of the older old timers that come here to our shop a lot. They always say, "Hey, what you see in Photoshop was all darkroom techniques."
Yeah, literally, like
literally.
dodge and burn.
Yeah.
It like the reason it has little like finger emojis and stuff because you could do it with your hands. You can make a little circle with your hands over your image and
Yeah.
like make this little shape and like start sculpting your image, like the light itself. You're sculpting with lights. It's like a crazy feeling. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm sure it's quite the experience, man. I know, like, Jesse was on our podcast too, and she's just like, man, just the smell of the dark room, that's what really gets me. Bernie, of course, too. He was like, I remember those days. He goes, it was an incredible time. You know what I mean? But now there's a lot of easy ways to, one of the things, of course, for people that don't have time or they do want to have somebody experience and professionally, I mean, they can come drop it off at Flats, and you're the man behind that, man.
Yes,
That's
sir.
really cool. Yeah, man. What do you think? Like, do you ever do you have what inspires you? Are there any like? Do you have any favorite photographers that you really gravitate to, or not even photographers? Sometimes it could be like for me, I like try to study a lot of photographers. And also too, music is a big part of what inspires me sometimes as well too. Like sometimes it could be that. But what inspires you?
I've always been like driven by like the DIY punk movements.
Oh, okay.
Like 70s, 80s. Just because the mentality of like making things and not worrying. Also like the 60s Japanese photographers were
yeah.
huge inspirations throughout college. Just because like
I need to study more of them.
when you're in college, it's very, I mean, it's obviously it's academic. It's very like, it's a very not stern because they encourage you to learn things, but like you get into like this repetition and stuff. And then learning about those photographers was like a huge deal to me because like they were getting rejected from like the European institutions, like because their work was not like clean enough. Like the Magnum photographers back then were like super clean professionals. And then they just started making their own stuff in like this super gritty, grimy way. And it had this term called arebur bokeh, which I always mess up the translation, but it's like blurry, out of focus, grainy. But essentially it means like it's okay that it looks messed up. Like just put the image out there. And they really push the boundaries of that with some like crazy, like they basically invented the punk aesthetic of like super gritty imagery.
That sounds very Japanese thing to do, though.
Yeah.
I built a lot of Honda Integras and a lot of Civics in my life, and they just pushed the boundaries because they when they weren't accepted geographically, and people would dog on them. Oh, they're not powerful cars, and all this stuff. Like they made some incredible motors, but that's really interesting how they translated that. I know with obviously. They did some of that with Nikon. Nikon, how it started, they were actually an optical company. You know what I mean? They were making lenses. I think what the story around town is what I hear is that they got their hands on some Carl Zeiss binoculars during the war, and they basically replicated that. You know what I mean? And of course they started making optics for Canon, and then eventually they became their own camera system. But it was really cool. I need to look into that.
Yeah, I'll give you some books, man. I'm a hoarder when it comes to photography books, so I got the collection.
Yeah, me too. I was a big, believe it or not, I always say, kids from the hood always love Star Wars, and kids from the hood love books too.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things that my English teacher in my junior year really got me into. Obviously, not to me, I always struggle speaking Spanish and English. being first generation, but she taught me a lot about creative writing, understanding poetry and stuff like that. She
dope.
made it really. I had a hard time always in my English classes, but she was like, Mikey, it's just like hip hop. Like just like you reading those lyrics, he goes, that's how you're gonna try to interpret these poems, and you're gonna get into creative writing. But that led me to getting into books and reading, you know. And then when I got into photography, the first thing I did was like, all right, I gotta get some photo books.
Yeah.
But anything you throw my way, man, I'm most than likely 99%, I'm gonna buy it.
I got you.
And I'm like, yeah, we need to study this because I like studying. I love. There's some incredible modern photographers, like some of my favorites. You can name some of your favorites too. Mine, Esteban Oreo, Steven Vanesco. People that are kind of like in right now, 13 Witness. They're still very active, but I want to take it back. Like one of the a friend of mine recommended Ernest Haas, so I've been studying a lot of his stuff, and I was like, man, it's interesting seeing him like do this, right? I think they call him the one of the fathers of color photography, motion blur, and how he introduced all these different techniques that a lot of street photographers that we do now.
Yeah, I mean, some of the best things you can do, like I'm helping like a young artist make a project right now, and I was like, it's like I want him to make a zine for the show we're doing, and I was like one of the best things when you start out a project is go look at like what's been made, not just bite off of what they're doing, but like to see like what they were thinking in terms of like building something, because it's like every book and every art show or whatever is a project with a beginning and end. It's like a film or something, it's like beginning to end. So it's like see how they like where they started and like how they built up and how they finished, because finishing a project is one of the hardest things you can do.
It is.
So like looking back at these books and stuff like that, and I mean of course like looking at modern books too, because they go crazy with like Dashwood Books in New York does like really like innovative stuff. But like going back and looking at like a completed body of work from an artist, because not all the time you have access to go into a museum and seeing like something.
Right.
And a lot of times museums just show pieces from artists and not like bodies of work, unless you're lucky enough to see it when it's like in circulation.
Right.
So like photo books are such a valuable resource, and then also as a creator, it's one of the cheaper ways to put out your work. I mean, of course, Instagram is now the dirt cheap way, but it's so saturated that it's like it's hard to get attention without doing like the viral tricks, and that kind of muddies your work in itself. Like you can't put out a pure body of work and then people are just going to come see it unless you are in like super popular.
Yeah, I like that tangible part about photography, like the books, the prints. Whether you make posters or you put it on a T-shirt, whatever. I like that part. That's my favorite part about it, and I think that's really important, man. And I know that's some really good advice, for someone that could be listening out there, because just taking the photo is not the end goal. You know what I mean? And being able to like, go do something with that, print it, put it in a book, even if you don't think like it's good enough, just do it. And that way you can kind of get that experience and it get better as well too.
It's funny. I have like a contrasting philosophy when it comes to that, because like I love I've built my practice on the idea of like just put it out, make stuff, like even if it's not perfect, like don't wait for like the perfect opportunity. Just it's like if once it's out there, you'll learn from your mistakes and build. But also like I try to practice like patience, where it's like, okay, if I shot a roll, don't put everything out at once, like wait to build up something and then make something out of like a year or two. It's like a lot of like the iconic like photo books or like art shows and stuff that you know about. It was like 5-10 years of work, of just photographing. And then there's like on top of that, planning and building the show or the book or whatever. So like I try to like have the patience to like build up a body of work. And then I also want to have the idea of like going out and just like make stuff and like boom, 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 like put things out.
Yeah, I think, one of the questions I like to ask, obviously, what's the most important thing, when you're creating a body of work? And I think you kind of know that there, it's just being able to like, no matter what, be able to put it out, because you're going to learn from it. Because, obviously I'm working on a small little zine on my first photo book project.
Sick.
And it's from my trip from Los Angeles. It was always a dream to go there. and one go to King Taco and and then document the lowrider culture and see what Cali it's like. You know what I mean? My cousins are from there, Southgate and South Central, and I got to stay there for 9 days. I went there and just made it a birthday trip, and I'm so grateful. But what I'm trying to say is that, looking back at these photos, and I was shooting a completely different way than what I'm shooting now. Not just like from the way I see things, but also too from a technical aspect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like my second year shooting wide open all the time. With that like 35 millimeter film.
Yeah.
There were some photos I think I shot at 5.6. I never shot anything like at f8, f11. I shoot there a lot now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm just like I didn't know. I wish someone would have told me. He was like, "Hey man, if you're gonna shoot that building, don't shoot it at a freaking f2." You know what I mean? Like so those little things. You know what I mean? So, I've been able.
I got a question. Did you go out there shooting with the intention of making something out of that?
No,
just going out
it was just I went up there with a Canon A1, an Elon 7, and then an X Pro 3, and I was just like, whatever I can document. It's just I was just there for the ride, man, and it was cool. It turned into like an incredible. Every day was like a movie. That's like awesome. I would wake up, my cousins would be like have breakfast, and I would eat breakfast, and I'm like, hey, I'll be back. She's like, they're very one, my family's Salvadoran and Central American, so they're very cautious. You know what I mean? And especially being from Los Angeles, born and raised, they're like, hey, just be careful. Don't wear that Houston Astros hat with the H. You know what I mean? Because it's still, Hoover Crip, represents that. So it's like, just be neutral. Wear your LA hat. Just, the regular Dodgers or something different. But just be careful, when you run into that. And she's like, and we'll see you for dinner. Like, we know you're going to go out there and shoot and explore. And I was able to come back every day, show them photos, and then they were like, "We've never seen that. Like, how did she find that?"
That's crazy.
So that was a cool experience,
Man, that's insane.
Yeah,
that's talent to show somebody like their town, like a side of their town they don't see.
Yeah. So my cousins, I got to show them a lot of photos, and they were like, "Man, you were right there in the middle of that." And of course, so grateful for the community in Los Angeles, man. The photographers, old school mentality. That kid Miggs, Adrian, that Alamazan, that actually runs High Cal Shots. They set up a private cruise for me. That was a movie and a dream come true to cruise down Whittier Boulevard in East LA in a lowrider, and I would just never forget. Yeah, man, it literally was like one of the best experiences of my life. So even though it's not the most perfect body of work. I still told my friends, like, I want to put it out there. I'm not going to give away the title, but I was like, I want to put it out there because it was my dream trip. You know what I mean?
Verb, okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Just going to put it out anyways.
Yeah, the Japanese way, man. Yeah. Just do it. That's just kind of the way I think you have to experiment with photography because if you, and we get caught up in the repetitive part sometimes. So you got to do something that's very therapeutic for you. You know what I mean? Sure. And I feel like a lot of photographers have kind of lost that and I get it because it becomes, this is how a lot of them are feeding their families and their livelihood. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I think, I don't know. What do you do to like when things become repetitive? Like one of the things that you like to do. I
switch. So if I'm getting like in a rut in photography, that's when it's time to start working on a film. Because like they're two opposites for me. Like photography is chaos and film is order. Yeah. And like so when it's like I'm like tired and I'm finding the same images or like I'm not having the inspiration, then I gotta sit down and like because film will reset my creative like flow because you literally have to sit down and build something out of nothing. Yeah.
And we mean by film, like picture motion picture, like actual movies, documentaries, and that's really cool. Like I never knew that part about you.
Yeah, I have the issue of like not like promoting myself, or sometimes like I made like my first film I didn't put out I never really put it out formally. I just put it on YouTube and like didn't tell anybody except for like the crew. It's like y'all want to watch it, y'all watch it. Yeah. So I have that issue. It's like maybe I'll hire someone to market my stuff, But like it's for me, it's just a good practice of like creativity and project management. Like film is a lot of boring stuff that you need to know how to do, like logistics, planning, scheduling, like all that kind of stuff. But it's really good, and it bounces back on my photography, and then vice versa. You know, like I said, there's two opposing practices, and like when I sit down to make a film, it normally is not just like a quick process too. It'll take, you know, somewhere like 3 to 6 months of planning before you touch a camera. And then after that, you're alone for another 3 to 6 months editing or something.
Yeah,
You
I've
know,
been learning a lot about that video, and I'm just film in itself is a whole different
yeah.
monster in itself, dude.
And it's really like my advice is always just to make something, because it's more than anything. Once you finish that project, you'll probably hate it and you'll be like, I should have did this and this and this. But like I want that feeling, because I'll write it down, and then the next project you kind of create a focus on not making those mistakes, and like you just kind of get better as you go. And I always have like a dream task or something, like not necessarily like I want to make it big or whatever. It's like I want to work with a professional editor, see what that's
Okay,
like,
yeah.
or I get a colorist, you know, because I was like learning coloring, color grading, and stuff like that. That like every single like facet of filmmaking has like a huge rabbit hole. Like just choosing the colors in your film, they go to school, they have crazy seminars, they have $10,000 like equipment, and then you want to get into editing, that's its own thing, sound editing, or you know, record every single job is like an insanely like detailed job. So I try to learn these things for myself, so that when I'm working with somebody, I like kind of understand the job that they have, like the task at hand for them. And then also like when you're there the day shooting, it's like you make it easier on them as well. And it looks better.
I did that with building cars. Like I hanged out a lot of mechanics, and they helped me understand a lot of the process. So even if I practically might not be as good as them, of replacing those certain parts or building those certain motors or doing that swap, I understand when they tell me like, hey, I'm gonna do this. And even to getting into some of the stuff here at Houston Camera Exchange, my friends Heido and Tony, being on sets with them and different little things like lighting, like you say, planning this whole thing out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How's this gonna be? Who's gaffing, who's setting up, who's setting up lighting. There's like a lot that goes into that production
like,
part of it.
You watch TV and stuff, you don't realize like how many meetings they had to have to like just to plan a shot, you know?
Yeah, and it could be like a 5-minute thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's crazy. But it's fun to learn that workload, and then to go back into photography, because now you feel so free, you can do whatever you want, there's no consequence. Yeah. And then you get excited shooting again, and then you kind of I go back and forth. I'll probably try to do like one film a year, and you know, photography is just a constant.
Yeah, I think it's important, like especially because a lot of people be like, "Hey, Mikey, do you ever feel uninspired?" I don't know if I've ever felt uninspired yet. 5 years of shooting, but there's been some times where I have felt like, oh, it feels very repetitive. So then I go get into something else. Like one of the things I love doing is building Hondas and different stuff like that. Or I'll go and check out, help out a friend with their car, and that becomes very therapeutic to me as well too. And then when I come back, to photography, it's like, oh, okay, actually from spending that time or listening to that or, just getting my hands on something else was like, actually I can come like, you know what, I think I got a different idea. And then I'll go in and try to practice it and stuff like that. So it's always cool to do stuff like that,
Yeah.
Well, but so what's next for you, man? What do you have planned out for this year?
So I just finished the big Uni solo show.
That was cool, by the way.
Thank you.
That was awesome, man. And a lot of the people in the community, I was talking to friends, and obviously Unis were like, "Man, y'all did an incredible job."
Appreciate it. It was my second show curating. And just the scale that we went was it was an insane amount of work. And I think it's been a month since we finished, and we just finished de-install like last weekend. So it's like now we're like done pretty much with that. So like I took like a month to rest and like just not worry about anything. I'm really ready to get back into film. I'm trying to do research on I want to do a film based around the skateboarding culture.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool, man.
So like my next thing I want to learn is research based projects. So I want to start interviewing and stuff like that. trying to research to get a well-rounded thing culture, because a lot of film and subculture, like films about subculture, I feel like they lack. Like they do a good job of glorifying a lot of times, but they don't really get a well-rounded picture of like
Right.
the whole culture, you know. So like I want to take my time, research, get to know, and see also like see if there's any like, you know, hidden talent, you know, some kind of amateur actors out there, or some kind of stories to build off of and like build around. So I'm trying to do that. And then we also are working on a photo book for Unis. That's going to be my first big photo book editing, because that
Okay.
photo books have always been a passion of mine, and editing was like a dream job, or really working in kind of publishing and anything kind of like that. So I'm going to be doing that. And then I just want to do like a quick zine for myself too, just kind of do like a no, like low stakes, just get real creative with it and see what I can do.
Yeah, man. We want to see it, man, for sure. I think that's really cool. And also, too, I think for like Houston, I always tell people, you know, when it comes to the photography or the filmmaking scene, there's some stuff out there from different cultures of Houston, whether if it's hip hop or the punk rock or the lowrider stuff or whatever it is that you're into. But I also feel too, because we're a very young city, I don't see a lot of stuff on there. So if you know, obviously do something on skateboarding here in Houston, that actually would be very interesting to see.
Yeah.
Because obviously the big dogs have always been in San Fran and, you know, Los Angeles, and of course anywhere in the West Coast and in, you know, the parts like New York and the big cities. But Houston has a lot that the world needs to see, you know what I mean?
And even just like us being like this mega sprawl, like from going from East Houston to West Houston takes like an hour, you know?
Yeah.
So like just that affects makes a unique skater culture, because you have these pockets of people like in LA or New York, they gravitate towards popular spots or certain like areas because they're like hot for skateboarding, which kind of exists out here, but there's like you got to go to different pockets of the city. So I'm really curious to see like the differences in like different areas of Houston, and also like make that read on screen kind of personify those different cultures.
Yeah, because geographically, like we're a big city, but we're really spread out. You know what I mean? And there's you have to get out there into different parts of it.
Yeah.
But that's cool, man. Jeremy, it really is a pleasure having you on here, man. Where can the audience, you know, find your work at and stuff like that?
I'm on Instagram, RIP Pitbull. It's spelled with 2 P's and the 2 T's. Pitbull spelled wrong.
Okay.
And I'm at Flats. I also, I guess Southside Film Club's a little more professional. It's like a little film page I have where I do screenings and stuff. I need to get back going.
I just saw that last night, and I was like, what's that about? The Southside.
Oh, yeah. So I started that in the pandemic, where I was using this like app called Cast, where you can share videos from your computer.
Okay.
And I was doing like basically film programming, where I was like, okay, this week we're going to show films from South Africa or something, you know, and I would just screen them online and post the links, and people would watch them from their homes because we're all quarantined. And then after pandemic, it kind of fizzled out, and I would do like physical screenings here and there. Like I did one in Flats where I did a David Lynch film, and I did one at my house. I kind of want to get it back going, do like a hybrid where I can cast it, because I have like friends in San Antonio who are like, when are you going to show movies again? And then I have friends here who want to come over again, and like, because we try to do like a book club type of thing where we watch the film, talk about it.
I'd love to be a part of that somehow,
Yeah.
man. Like
Yeah.
that just even go out there and hang out with you guys and see it. I think that's dope.
Appreciate
That's
it.
super dope.
It's a fun thing that, you know, anything I can do to like to like share, hard to find. Like I'm all about sharing knowledge, so like anything that's like hard to find or has like a paywall or something, I'm like, get it to the people, you know. Like I know we're in a camera shop, but I was like, I'll show people how to pirate Photoshop and stuff like that.
Yeah,
you
I know what you mean. Yeah, but that's dope, man. I think that when you do community things like that, that's really cool. And then if you can build community, whether here in Houston or online, I think we need more stuff like that. You know what I mean? So I just saw that on your page. I was like, oh, this looks incredibly interesting, and I want to learn a little bit more.
Yeah,
about
I need to
that.
get back into it. It's been a minute. So I'm gonna try to get it back formally going.
Cool.
Southside Film Club HTX maybe is the handle.
Okay. So there you go, man. You can find Jeremy there. Thank you for tuning in today in this episode. And, you know, don't forget to like and subscribe, y'all. Peace out.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and come visit us at the Houston Camera Exchange, 5900 Richmond Avenue.